Fortunately, I get to start off with an announcement, which helps. There's 2 leather-bound books in the back of the hall here, and Paula and the family have asked that you take a moment and share one of your favorite Jason stories or Jason memories. It is commonly known that the shortest verse in the entire Bible is Jesus wept, John 11:35. If you read the entire passage, you would note that he wept over the death of Lazarus, his close friend, and he wept for the others who also loved Lazarus. I suppose if the God of this universe would weep over the passing of his friend, then who are we to think that we wouldn't? So, I'm going to go ahead and let my emotions take me where they may. I would encourage the same of you. I can all but guarantee you the humming of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or picturing all of you naked right now, which is exactly what Jason would want me to be doing. Or imagining my friend dressed up like a pimp donned in purple. None of these. It doesn't stand a chance against levying the tears that are most certain to come. Moreover, I'm not a pretty crier. Jason was always quick to point out that the Ellerton boys don't cry well. It's ugly and it's awkward. Rocky looks like a cross between Oprah and Gary Busey. And my throat clamps shut, my shoulders heave, and I gasp for breath like some 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at the checkout line at Toys R Us. So please, bear with me. At the Totem Square Inn in the hallway near the elevator, there's this picture of Sitka. Rocky and I studied it yesterday morning, and although we can't tell exactly what year it was taken, it's very, very old. But despite its age, it is unmistakably Sitka. Lincoln Street, the church, the original pioneer home. Its black and white simplicity captures the essence of what it means to call this town our home. These 13 miles of road, this island just off the coast to the middle of nowhere, has a way of tying us all together as a family. I love when I meet someone new in the lower 48 and they say, "Oh, you're from Sitka, do you know so-and-so?" Before so-and-so's name is even revealed, I say, "Yes, of course I do. It's Sitka." This timeless little backdrop for so many amazing people and so many amazing stories. Through the years, there have been only an anointed few, a handful of larger-than-life characters that seem to embody the essence of what it means to be from Sitka. Porky Bakar comes to mind. His antics are legendary. In the time he set fire to a bunch of tires inside the crater of Mount Edgecombe, thanks to the internet, is now a story known around the world. And then there's John Straley and his handful of detective novels that have brought the beauty of Sitka to so many readers who will never be able to experience it for themselves. Anyone who went through the Sitka school system knows of the Bill Fosters and the Bob Petruskis and the Gail Hammonds and the other memorable teachers that allow us firsthand knowledge of the impact of a meaningful teacher can have. But if ever there was a face that represented this phenomenon, it would be Jason Wesley Schaefer. Hello, turd with an icon. An absolute icon. He was only 39 when he left us, but during this short yet remarkable run, Jason embodied the essence of true friendship. He was a lovable caricature woven deep into the tapestry of our little town of quirky individuals. If you knew Jason, you loved Jason. This is not some overstatement or exaggeration. If you knew Jason, you loved Jason. That was his gift, and this is why this is so incredibly hard. Mary Haynes, who's one of my Facebook friends, Facebook is a little bit overwhelming for me. I'm friends with pretty much everybody in here, but Mary Haynes had a great post the other day, and she pointed out, she said, you know, I'm intrigued by the fact of the number of people that refer to you as their best friend. He's everyone's best friend. And this wasn't some disingenuous approach that he was taking. These relationships were real. These people were his best friend. That was the root of his brilliance, to be able to connect with anyone and everyone, to be able to be a living, breathing example of what the essence of friendship was meant to be. The thing about Sitka is that it's so stinking small. We all have a connection that you just don't feel in other towns. There's something deeper, something more meaningful and ethereal about what it means to be from Sitka. Jason embodied that. He was just one of a few patriarchs in this town. Even at 39, he was something of a legend. Today will be hard for all of us, very hard, and that's okay. We will get through it. We'll get through it together as friends, as family, as an eclectic group of quirky individuals from all over the world who share a common bond, the unconditional love of Jason Schaefer. Over the past 12 days, I've been struggling. I have been straining against the emotional tug of war between happiness and sadness. I desperately want these memories of happiness to prevail, but the tidal wave of emotion I have found is unavoidable. So I gave in. I let myself cry. I let myself be sad. I called a cell phone. I called a cell phone to hear his voice. I called his cell phone to hear his voice one last time and tell him that I love him and that I miss him. But being the real estate agent that he is, you know he won't call me back. That's okay. It's okay. My relationship with Jason was interesting. He and I would go stretches of a year and a half without actually seeing one another. But when we finally got together, it was as natural could be. Between our visits, we would talk nearly every day, if not a conversation over the phone, then it would be, we would just sit there and text back and forth like a couple of 14-year-old girls with ADD. He always refused to let me type LOL, laugh out loud. He wanted me to come up with something different. We were too good for that. Even though so many of his responses to my text messages were worthy of an LOL. He will always be remembered as a young, good-looking 39-year-old. And as I stand here before you with a spare tire on my midsection and more gray than black in my beard, I can't help but be irritated by the fact that he has once again outshined me, and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. In the days that followed his passing, Facebook lit up with hundreds of pictures of Jason. As you scrolled through the news feed, it was like watching a highlight reel of his life. If you look closely, you would see one recurring theme. He was always laughing. I love that picture. He was always kissing someone. And if he wasn't laughing or kissing someone, he is sitting quietly and peacefully with a sleeping baby nestled in his arms. Jason always found a way to enjoy the finer things in life. Michael Beth and I were talking the other day, and she said, you know, Matt, I guarantee you Jason will find a way to upgrade to first class on his seat on his way to heaven. We're all going to miss Jason terribly. This much I know is true. But I'm also at peace with my sadness. I know that in time, only the happy memories and the essence of what Jason represents will remain. He was taken from us far too soon, and that creates an absence that hurts. His departure, however, has given way to an outpouring of love and connection between all those who adored him. Family, friends, all of us adored that guy, and I'm absolutely certain he will be remembered forever. A few days after we got the news, I was on the phone with a friend, not a close friend, but someone that loved Jason the way that I did. When the call was just about done, just as we were getting ready to hang up, there was a pause. One of those heavy, pregnant pauses that you can feel in your throat. I wanted to tell him that I loved him, and he wanted to tell me too. And that pause, that palpable need to share your feelings, that lump in each of our throats, was because of Jason. This was the power that he had. To be deprived of the family, or to be deprived of the ability to see and hear and hold our friend hurts. It aches. It makes me sad and angry all at once. It seems unfair that someone that did so much to help everyone else couldn't be saved from himself, no matter how hard all those around him tried. So I would ask that we absorb these moments with those we love. Soak in the relevance of these little vignettes of beauty. You've got one shot at it. Jason understood this better than any friend I've ever had. His commitment to friendships, his unbridled spontaneity, were the dangerous combination that made for one juicy story after another. 2 nights ago, Rocky and I huffed and puffed our way to the top of Castle Hill. We went up there and shared our favorite, like 40 steps. We went up there to share our favorite stories, our favorite Jason stories. We laughed and we cried and we stood there in silence. We miss our friend. We miss our honorary brother. But what I appreciated most about our friend was how he never ever passed on an opportunity to tell you that he loved you. And it wasn't just some throwaway line, like the kind of I love you when my wife is trying to get me to mow the lawn. It was a genuine, heartfelt I love you. It was said with meaning and conviction. He wasn't afraid of his feelings, and those he loved were the beneficiaries of a friend who understood the essence of love. I hope that all of you had a chance to grab a bracelet in the, near the entrance. I had these made up for a couple of reasons. On the bracelet, I was going to go with JWS, his initials, but it looked like Jaws, and that just didn't work for me. And then I thought about putting Jason Schaefer, but then that seemed too formal, especially for Jason. So then it occurred to me, he's just Jason, and he's just fabulous. So that's what I went with. I would encourage you to use these bracelets to remember him, use it to honor him. These simple little bands are a symbol of his friendship. See the name on your wrist and be reminded that he is at peace. Use it to remind yourself that he was fabulous. I remember this time he came down to Portland to visit me, and as a matter of sheer coincidence, Britney Spears was in town. Also coincidentally, he had 2 extra tickets. And so I coerced a local friend of mine to join us, someone that had yet to be, Jasonized. Chris and I were sitting in a restaurant downtown Portland when in strolls Jason Schaefer wearing tight blue jeans, a tight t-shirt, and a leopard skin cowboy hat. He looked great. Chris turned his stare from Jason to me, and with a look that was equal parts terror and utter confusion, I just shrugged my shoulders and said, I'd like to introduce you to Jason Schaefer. You've never met anyone like him before. Apparently, he said. We went out that night, and Chris has never forgotten that evening. I could look down at this little symbol of Jason, and as though taking me by the hand, he will walk with me down a poignant path of memories. The goofy stories of our childhood when we ate mixed dog food on a dare, and then had seconds because it wasn't half bad. Or the time we jumped in, rolled in, wrestled in the colorful invitingness of several rolls of pink insulation at one of Clyde's job sites. I've never fully gotten over the episode of itchiness. I'm choosing not to focus on Jason pirouetting through the pearly gates, charming his way past St. Peter, and immediately laying out his plans to redecorate the celestial palace above. It's a lovely thought, yes, but my focus is on the memories, the happiness that he brought to my life, to my wife and my kids' lives, to all those he came in contact with during his near 40-year journey. These simple, heartfelt memories written in a minor key serve as the necessary medicine I need to get through these Jason spells that I'm sure we will all have as the reality continues to set in and the memories of our friend and all that remain of the memories of our friend. He had this unmatched, genuine concern for the welfare and, more importantly, the feelings of others. I can't even count the number of times I called him, and he said he would have to call me back because he was, quote, out walking with Carrie. One-on-one, you you were the most important person in the world. He understood people. He understood human faults, human vulnerability. His effervescent personality was what the world saw and what initially drew us to him. But if we really examine what it was that made Jason so special, it was his ability to understand you. His ability to make those in need feel loved. He oozed empathy. This was his gift. Jason was a nucleus. He was the bridge. He was the top of this pyramid of Kevin Bacon of connections. All roads lead back to Jason. If you look closely enough, you'll find the connection, always. He attracted legions of friends and meaningful relationships. His intellect, his ability to truly understand people, these were all of his gifts. He had so many talents: cooking, a sense of humor, his creative approach, whether it was solving an issue at work or planning and executing the perfect party. He single-handedly planned my 2011 Halloween party. No complaints, he just did it. But of all of his talents, of all the special attributes that made Jason, it was his emotional intelligence, his ability to connect with other people that made him so incredibly and unforgettably amazing. Clyde Schaefer, arguably the manliest man that Sitka has ever produced. He hunts, he fishes, he grows a mean beard, and he roots for the Oakland Raiders. When he wants your attention, he says, "Boy!" And you know damn well you better respond. And God, being the comedic genius that he is, opted to bring unto Clyde and Kathy a gentle soul that was more concerned with better homes and gardens than field and stream. And yet, these two had one of the most special bonds that a father and son could ever have. Clyde was there for Jason with his struggles, and Jason was there for Clyde as he battled cancer. They understood one another. They cared for one another. They respected one another. It is a father-son relationship that was second to none. The same goes for Kathy. I can't think of another mother-son combo that was such an open, honest, loving, and hilarious relationship than Kathy and Jason. And this was true for all of his family. His sister Crystal learned early on how lucky she was to have an older brother like Jason. And to Chatham, his nephew, he was more than just a loving uncle. He was prouder of that kid than any father I've ever met. Rocky would tell me about Jason calling to brag about Chatham walking or Chatham talking. He loved that kid like it was his own. He set the bar so unachievably high for the rest of us, and we loved him for it. He was the very essence of friendship. Jason was one of a kind. He was the friend that was always there no matter what. Indescribable. It's a connection of on an ethereal level. People that never knew Jason could never fully appreciate what he meant to each of us. Our lives, every single one of us here today, are more enriched because Jason was a part of it. We can't feel alone. 5 days from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, he will always be in our hearts. Remember that you are not alone. Remember these faces around you as you cherish the memory of our friend. I got a phone call from Dawn Young, who worked at Baranoff with Jason. She called me, and we immediately broke into tears, and we were both choking out how sad we were about what had happened. And then she started to tell a story about Jason in these footy pajamas, and she started laughing, and it was so perfect to listen to this transition of Dawn's tears into her laughter. I mean, absolute hysterics, and she must have laughed for a good minute and a half, 2 minutes, and it felt so good. Just to listen to her retell, I wasn't there, but to listen to her retell the story and knowing Jason as I do, it felt so good. I really loved him. And I know that each of you share my feelings, and I would encourage you to let yourself be sad. Let the tears flow, like the little kid over here to my right. It's normal, and with someone like Jason, it is to be expected. But in the end, I would ask that all of us make a commitment, all of us make a promise to ourselves and to one another that we focus on the memories. We embrace the beauty and unmatched love that we all had, that we have for all the people in this life. Jason, our lives are more meaningful because you were a part of it. One of the most interesting and tragic elements of the last 12 days is the regret that I'm feeling. I told him I loved him nearly every time we spoke, and he said the same to me. I would imagine that everyone in this room today knows how Jason feels about you, and my hope is you, at some point, shared your feelings with him. But here's the part that tears me up. As much as we talked and as much as we shared our feelings for one another, I never had a chance to tell him how much I admired his relationship with his parents. I never had a chance to tell him how much I loved his laugh, or that scar on his cheek, or that amazing laugh that he had. Don't pass on these opportunities. You might be labeled as overly maudlin or a bit gushy, but you know what? Who cares? Tell those close to you how you feel. Tell them that you love them. Tell them why you love them. Give them examples. It will make you feel good, and it will make them feel even better. We can learn from Jason's passing. He was smarter than most people realize, and I don't mean that in an overly affectionate, fawning sort of way. He was smart. He was brilliant. In fact, and anyone who even sort of knew Jason figured this out rather quickly. He downplayed it rather well. He wasn't in your face about it, but there was an element of brilliance, particularly as it related to people, that I saw from an early age. He could connect with anyone, and this is why I loved him so much. I want to finish with something that Clyde wrote for Jason, and I think it sums it up best. It's titled "The Measure of a Man." My son Jason had a gentle soul. He was kind to everyone, no matter what their race, religion, or social status was. Post after post has stated how much he was loved and how he will be missed. I love my son and I miss him. At the same time, my heart is breaking. It also swells with pride at the love and kind thoughts sent his way by everyone. When you measure a man by how much he was loved and how many mourn his loss, then my son was truly a man among men. If more men were like my son, the world would be a much better place. My life is infinitely better because Jason was in it. I want to thank you for this opportunity. This means more to me than you'll ever realize.